Greetings and hello. The doomer phenomenon is described as, quote, people who are pessimistic about their situations and where things are going. This is nearly always related to intergender dynamics. There may be other contexts which use the doomer euphemism, but that is not the main descriptor of the topic. There are a few things at play here, all of them of which are gynocentric. Despite the quote females are victims to narrative peddled by society, doomerism is strictly a male phenomenon. It affects men because of female behavior. Without extenuating circumstances such as the Industrial Revolution and the rise of the Internet, this phenomenon would not happen. As men would be able to shack up with women, as women had choices back then too, but the far easiest was to leech off a man. With the rise of the Internet, women are much more able to communicate as a collective and create more privilege for themselves, due to society being gynocentric, thus harming men. Also, doomerism had a means to spread through the Internet. This is because men would communicate with fellow men and see the situations that they were in, and how they all are similar. They also start to come to observe that as women gain more and more privilege, they begin deselecting men. This is women's natural behavior, which isn't caused by technology. It is ingrained in them, and the Internet has been like a curtain in revealing female nature, not the catalyst. The Internet has allowed people thousands of miles away to post and communicate about their experience. This allows people to form communities, which includes the doomer community. Why doomer communities formed in the first place is not a mystery. The answer is because of a gynocentric society only focused on pampering and privileging women. The abuse men receive is not invisible, and thus is left documented, leaving men to the obvious conclusion that society hates them. The people in these doomer communities, who are men, know they are wronged by the way society treats them. They know that women won't go for them because they are low status. They understand that society privileges women. However, the one thing that is the driver behind all of their attitudes is still gynocentrism. This is because they still want a girl and are willing to be disposable and throw their lives away if a woman comes into their life. This is what distinguishes pro-male men from those in the doomer communities. Most doomers still operate on the spectrum of gynocentrism, which means they want to pander to a woman in the form of a relationship. The majority are unhappy about not being able to bribe a woman, but don't care about other men's rights causes. Men in the pro-male collective understand that women don't naturally like men, and this is the situation caused by it. Doomers just want to focus on the state of relationships between men and women. Again, doomers are mainly men who are depressed that they are deselected. Because of this, women cannot be doomers, as they are the ones who caused this situation in the first place. So doomerism is a male-only issue that is only prevalent in men. Women actually benefit from the things that cause doomerism, as they don't want to be around men. Women can easily get partners in a snap, but choose not to because of their own volition. Also, women's contempt for men has been shown in the open, in the form of the Internet. Doomers then see high-status men in relationships with women and get depressed, thinking women only have contempt for low-status men. In reality, women have contempt for all men, as they see them as nothing but tools to further privilege and pamper them, not actual equal human beings. Even if this information was presented to them, doomers would deflect by saying, quote, "That is cope because you have not gotten into a relationship." This in itself exposes the pedestal that doomers hold women on in their head. Men that are more gynocentric will blame the doomers themselves for their inability to get a girl. They will point fingers and say varying things like, "Improve yourself," or any number of other copes. This is because those men can afford to pay the bribe that women demand of them. So they naturally spew lies to appease the women, to cover up the real issue. If all of these guys telling doomers to quote self-improve were to suddenly become low status themselves, their women would leave them. These same men assert that doomers exist because life is too easy. No. Women just deselect men because they don't want to be with the male sex, and their bribe price rises as time goes on. The victim blaming the doomers is a gynocentric farce to take blame off women. The men who blame and attack doomers are just gynocentric attack dogs wanting to cover up evidence for the mafia. It's the same rinse and repeat of men attacking other men to appease their female leeches. Women's lives are easy and are described as being on tutorial mode. This is due to female privilege. Women are given everything they want and are pandered to everywhere, and do they form doomer-like communities? No, because they don't face the problems that men do. In fact, they cause them. Women demand that men give them privilege and use that privilege to disenfranchise men. Therefore, women's easy lives are built off the back of the abuse of men. Doomers tend to only focus on themselves being discarded from relationships, but are okay with men following women's orders to keep them around. The whole problem with this is still gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is always the test to whether or not a community is pro-male or wants to sacrifice themselves for female privilege. The doomers' situation is caused by women's dating choices, not doomers themselves, as they would do anything to be in a relationship. Women demand a higher and higher status man and deselect the men who don't fit. These men realize that they don't match up to women's standards and become doomers. It is all caused by women revealing their true feelings about men. Women have never liked the male sex. That is why they have revealed their true feelings about men, in that they demand a higher and higher bribe price. This is not caused by men themselves, as men do everything and anything, including to sacrifice themselves to pamper women. Instead, it's inside women to use men and discard them. So, men need to break free from the desire to be in a relationship because they are about male usury and privileging women. Take one high-status man, and women appear to desire him. This is not for who he is, but for his status, which translates into means to privilege and coddle her. If that same man were of low status, she would not even consider him. As for the argument about male looks, women would rather go for a middle-class average man than a broke quote-unquote Chad. The illusion that women only go for good-looking men is because these men gain their status first, then can afford treatments to improve their appearance due to their wealth. It can be compared to when someone is shopping for tools. They look for the sturdiest, longest-lasting tool for the job with the best bargain. This is not different from women's mate selection. Also, notice personality and the characteristics of the man himself is not present here. Only his status and thus, ability to pamper the woman. The man is only an object for the woman to reach her desired lifestyle. Due to gynocentric brainwashing from a young age, men make the purpose of their life to be centered around getting a woman. This is because mothers indoctrinate their sons to be self-loathing and put women first. Therefore, men are filled with self-hatred from the very start of their lives. This also makes the brain of the man gaslight itself continuously. Even if the man is happy, the brain says, "No, you will truly be happy if you find a woman." Doomers follow very much an identical template. Their minds are filled with self-loathing from society and their mothers, which creates this compulsion of wanting to be with women. This makes them become even more self-loathing when women deselect them. Of course, it is women's own actions and no fault of the doomers at all. Doomers need to realize that they are not the problem and that everything is fine with them as people, but that a man-hating society pushed them to feel bad about not pampering women. Of course, for any man, doomers included, the pro-male message is new and alien. It implores that men are worthy by themselves and are fully complete on their own. It flies in the face of the countless floods of gynocentric programming. Finally, it tells them the truth about the dynamics between men and women, and that men are not at fault for women's mating choices. Of course, this is a lot to take in for brains that have been running on gynocentric hardware. However, when men realize that they are important and that serving women is in their detriment, they begin to shed such gynocentric attitudes. They don't pander to women through their actions or minds because they know how women see them. Of course, this process is not immediate and requires years of constant repetition to undo decades of gynocentric shaming and brainwashing. But it can be done once men shed the shackles of their masculine servant roles and become pro-male. Yes, masculinity is a construct created by women, solely based on the man's ability to serve and privilege women. So any doomer who hears this video is implored to start to seriously consider gender dynamics, and if they truly want to be pawns to the female sex, who sees them as tools. If not, be prepared for more self-inflicted suffering, as women have never liked men. If the answer is yes, then welcome to the pro-male community. You have finally taken the steps to break through your gynocentric paradigm and are on your way to fully seeing yourself as the human being you deserve. Along with a collective of like-minded men fighting for the human rights of men and boys.